What's up, everybody, and welcome into the number one Group of Five college football podcast in the world. This is the Group of Five guys, and our mission is to be the voice for the Group of Five football programs that the mainstream sports media absolutely refuses to be. We need your help to do that. We need you to hit the follow button on all the social platforms at Group of Five guys. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your best podcasts. Subscribe to the channel, leave a 5-star rating and a review. Most importantly, tell your family and friends all about us. On this episode of Inside Drill, trying to learn more about NIL and NIL agents, the way that entire process works. So joining us now is Pat Curran of Curran Media Company. Pat, thanks for coming on, brother.
I appreciate you guys. As I said before, I'm a Group of Fiver myself, played at Bowling Green. I see you guys stuff all the time. You guys reached out and I was like, hell yeah, let's talk about it. There's a lot of good things happening and a lot of not great things that are happening right now.
Yeah.
Can I cuss on here? I can cuss. We were cussing before. I didn't get anything on that. Okay.
You're good. No, we don't have. What are you talking about? We weren't cussing at all.
I was definitely cussing.
Feel free. If the moment strikes you, let it fly.
Yeah. Right, be your authentic self, as they say. Well, we're excited to get your perspective on this, right? Because we can speculate and Twitter can go nuts, and every time somebody gets in the portal, there's an agent that's getting thrown all under the bus or something like that. So I guess first, let's walk us through your background a little bit. How'd you get into this industry?
Yeah. So I played in college, played at Bowling Green. I was just a guy on the roster. I wasn't, some standout dude. I don't pretend to be. It's a guy on the roster. Then I got into some lower-level coaching, coached some college ball for a couple of years. Got into the agent side. Actually, 10 years ago, my brother and I had started our first company around marketing and branding. Did a lot of stuff with athletes. We were working with media companies and brands. So we'd work with athletes and be like, oh man, these guys don't really understand this marketing piece. So we were just straight marketing initially, and we kept seeing this with athletes. And so we shifted about 7 years ago to work with athletes. Got certified as an NFLPA agent so we could be full circle on the football side, and then jumped into this. When the NIL opened, we were like, hell yeah, we're getting on board. We're going to teach these people how to build brands and get marketing dollars and blah, blah, blah. And that was cool for the first year. And then everyone was like, all right, have you ever heard of collective dipshit? Like, that's where we're going with this. And that's how things are going to happen. And money's going to go. So that was our whole intent in this. We've been in NIL since like day one. I remember July 1st of 21 I think I had 13 or 14 calls like in the morning, like back to back. People were like, hey, can I get on a call? And then there's people I'm trying to reach out to. And it was kind of crazy then. Obviously, things have evolved in this new world of the collective stuff and revenue share next year and transfer portal and all this. And obviously, we've had to evolve with it.
So my first question is, there's so many collegiate athletes from Division I, FBS, FCS, all the other sports. And do you think, is it necessary for every single athlete to have representation at this point?
Definitely not. Do I think it's valuable for some? For sure. Obviously, that's what I'm doing. But everybody thinks they need an agent. There's a lot of people who are really bad in the space. I was talking to a GM like an hour ago complaining about other agents. And I talked to another one yesterday and the day before. And they're talking about how agents are doing stuff in bad business. So like even for good ones, and I'm talking to Power 4 GMs, even for good ones, good players, that is, to have a bad agent can make for bad biz.
Yeah. And with these student athletes trying to find agents, how do they go about finding it? Is it just one that slides in their DM, or is there like a platform they can look for? Like, how does that whole process work?
Definitely not a platform to look for one that I know of. I'll tell you, most are going to reach out at some point early. I know the narrative is like, hey, I can get you this much if you go there. And that is definitely true for some, but not all. For me, how I like to do it, and I'll say this, like for me, sometimes I'm reaching out to people, sometimes people are reaching out to me. It's both ways. Yeah. Like the reason we connected here is because I talk about a lot of shit like this on social. So I have a lot of players that'll reach out to me. Usually it's not, the top level player. But occasionally we get someone like, oh yeah, that could be a great fit. Like, let's talk and go from there. But for me, I want to find guys that I can help. So I'm constantly communicating with people. I'm looking for guys that can go to the league. like ideally I'm an NFL agent and trying to build relationships to grow, to build our agency. So I'm trying to talk to guys who I think could be a guy in 2 years. And if it gets to a point where that conversation needs to be to go to the transfer portal, fine. And then we handle that. But that's not the first conversation. And even when I intro myself anywhere, I'm never saying, yo, you should get in the transfer portal. Like I told multiple people today not to get in the transfer portal. And, you know, a lot of agents get bad reps for great reasons because they should have bad reps. But on my end, and what I do is I'm constantly talking to players and I'm telling 90% of them to not get in the transfer portal and stay where they are. Even one player, I'm telling them, I know you would make more money at this other place, probably double the money, but you're in a great situation where you are. And this player has lead potential. You're in a great situation where you are. We don't know what that situation could look like. You come back, you have a great year here. We'll get you more money, but you're not going to make what you could other places. Stay here, have a great year, make more money next year, and then get to the league. Like he's that kind of player. If he jumps and goes somewhere else, could that still be the case? Yeah, it might be, but we don't know what that situation is. So don't get me wrong. I have players that get in the portal, and I have about 10 guys I'm working with right now. So it's not like I never say it's a good scenario, but there's a lot of times where it just does not make sense for a player. And you see, like, I don't even know what roster. It would be an amazing stat to get percentage of current rosters that they have available in roster spots and how many people left, like across the country, because it's every 5 seconds somebody else is getting it.
Yeah.
And usually it's a move just to get more money. Or I'm not playing here and I should be playing here. I should be the starter. And look at me, I'm this and that. And you're like, you're not.
So how many, you know, in your personal experience or your conversations, like you're almost the guys that you're saying, no, don't get in the portal, you're in a good spot. Are most of the kids coming to you with that conversation, like thinking they need to get in the portal, or are most of them not sure? They're thinking more money, different spot.
Yeah. Now some of them are like, hey, listen, group of 5 guys, like you're not making any money, generally speaking. There's some places you will, but I understand you want to go and make 500,000 or 800,000 and you're making 24,000 at your school or 50,000. Like that is a completely logical thought. And everybody on every staff at the group of 5 level would go leave for another job for 700,000 more. So don't get me wrong on that point of it, but too many are like, well, they're only paying me 3,000 a month. I can go make 5,000 a month somewhere else. And it's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like it's 25,000 bucks a year to actually $2 a month. It's like, it's not that much money to be making a decision based on the rest of your career off of that much money.
Yeah, and obviously, like, you know, we've seen it the last couple of years. Quinyon Mitchell stayed at Toledo, Ashton Genty stayed at Boise State, and like their bag is when they got to the NFL. Now, obviously, not every single player, you know, group of 5 guy is that caliber and you know, is going to make it to the NFL. But you know, I guess, you know, having that conversation throughout, it seems like to me the way you're kind of operating, it's like it's a full relationship, not just like, hey, this one transaction, let's get in the portal and be done with it, which it seems like it's at least the narrative on social media has been.
There is a lot of that for sure. There's a lot of that. And you mentioned those 2 guys, like those 2 guys are also unicorns.
Yeah.
And for most people, that's the selling point of all the group of 5s. Like, hey, if you go out there, it's crazy and this may happen, this may not happen. But, you know, again, like you're the receivers coach at group of 5 school X, you're leaving for an extra 500,000 to go to Power 4. We all know this. Mm-hmm. So I understand it. I forget your question now.
Basically, like the way it seems like you've kind of explained it is, you know, you're having more of a, you know, relationship with the player and counseling and guiding them, as opposed to what seems like we've seen where it's like, hey, get in the portal, I can get you money. And it's kind of like a one-off almost. Yeah.
But then they lock you in a multi-year contract sometimes too. And they're taking 20% of your shit. And you're like, wait, what? And the player doesn't know that and they don't get it. And they're like, well, who cares if I get 20% of my $250,000 check? Like, I'm still making whatever that math is, like, you know, 200,000. So they don't care in that way, or they don't know it. And the parent was like, well, shoot, you can give me this school for that amount of money. Like, we're all on board. And they don't know what else is like. We're 5%. And I don't mind saying that publicly. That's what should be. That's fairly industry standard for non-slimy agents.
Yeah.
There is lots of people doing 20. And I didn't
So
even
that's a
realize that
thing.
until the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
Mm.
And I've gotten like parents being like, "Oh my, I didn't know my son did this," or "How did this happen?" And like I don't know if that's the parents' fault or not. It's a 20-year-old kid signing a contract, but they're trying to get out of it, and you can't get out of it. Like the way technically they could like go to court and have lawyers and do all that, but it's like you're gonna lose unless they. It's just a mess, and that's unfortunately what is a lot of what's happening is stuff like that. Or hey, I can get you X number of dollars. Now, I know factually too. Sometimes a school will tell an agent, if that guy goes, he's going to get X number of dollars. And, that's part of the game too.
So how do you talk about that? How do you measure their value and how often, and the second part of that question is how often do the players overestimate or their parents overestimate how much they think they can get?
How much do they over or underestimate? I think a lot of talking to are underestimating probably where they think they'll be. Definitely people overestimate too, probably a good percentage. Usually I'm not going to vibe with those people. If people come, if a player or a parent comes to me and they're like, "Hey, we want to make X number of dollars," and that's the first thing we're talking about, we're not going to be a fit. I'm trying to find best football fit, and then we can work to maximize dollars, but let's find best football fit first when we're talking about this stuff. That's our mentality. So if that's the first thing a parent's coming to me with, then we got an issue, which I guess kind of eliminates the overestimating types. I love working with FCS dudes or group of 5 guys who aren't 5 stars coming out and they're just damn good players. And so they're like, well, I want to get in the portal for XYZ reason. That makes sense. And I'm like, cool, let's do it. And I know they're going to make more money than they think, but they don't know that yet. So yeah, there's a lot of that. So like with the information piece.
Yeah. And when you're talking to, who's your point of contact if you're the agent and you're talking to? Is it the collective? Is it a coach? Are you even supposed to be having conversations with a coach? Like, what are the regulations when it comes to that, and who do you talk to?
Yeah, well, there are no like actual regulations around that. I can talk to anybody. Anybody can talk to me. Player stuff's different before they get in the portal. Once in the portal, like communication is open outside of dead periods and quiet periods and those kind of things change things. But generally, I'm talking to the general manager, director of player personnel types. Usually, sometimes it's the collective, but usually I've already talked to those people and then get to the collective.
Gotcha.
And get there. Yeah, it's usually, I found the collective piece is usually like a way to like put a buffer up to be like, we're not committing to something there, or we can't do this because you'll talk to them about that, or that sort of side of it.
So how much, one of the things we've heard from some coaches, and we've seen on Twitter where a player gets in the portal and, nobody even knows about it until they see their Instagram post. How much are like your guys, or how much should like everybody be involved with this? Like, coaches knowing, hey, he thinks where there can at least be some negotiation, right? Where if he gets in a portal because he thinks he's going to get an extra $100K, where you might be able to say, hey, he wants to leave because he thinks he can get this. Like, can we get close before he enters the portal? Or is there any of that happening?
There's all that. I don't like to play the portal or the pump fake on the portal just to do it. I want to talk numbers and we get to the amount that we want and makes sense and is fair for the player. Then great, we'll come to a deal. If not, then the transfer portal can happen. But I never like the threat of the transfer portal just for the threat of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was the other piece of that?
Well, just like we've seen where like the players are not even telling their team.
I think that's like in general, you've just burned a bridge if you do that. And I don't like playing that. Like, I'll always tell them, go tell coach first. And I'm talking like position coach to head coach first. Mm-hmm. From there, then go to compliance, which is how you do it, like logistically. And then, if you feel like you want to make an announcement, make an announcement. If you don't. But that should help. And obviously, depending on the player, like you should or you doesn't matter if you do make an announcement, but you should tell them first. I don't like people being blindsided on it. There are, I guess, times where maybe you have to, but that shouldn't. If we're actually trying to negotiate something, getting in the portal before you talk to them is not the best way to do that, because you've immediately started a contentious deal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why an agent is a good piece to have.
Yeah.
Because now I can go to the general manager and talk like a professional, and things we're doing, like we're trying to negotiate the contract, not after the season. Sometimes we are, but we can have that communication during the season. And then when after the season, before the transfer portal opens, then we can talk about those things and have things laid out. Not just be like, all right, I'm in the portal, let's talk now. Like that doesn't bode. Yeah.
With revenue sharing on the horizon starting in July, how do you see that affecting, the NIL space? Because as far as I understand it, the school, I mean, would the agents be brokering that as well? Is it basically the same thing, just coming from a different source?
Yeah, same thing coming from a different source.
Okay.
Nothing's changed on my end with that stuff, and obviously we don't have it in place, but everyone's moving as if it is in place right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What this is really my last question for you, Pat, is how we ended up getting together was, I think, when you retweeted Jay Norvell's quote about agents taking 15-20%, and to you, you're like, oh my God, like that's ridiculous. And to us, we're like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. But it's happening all over the place. So how can we make sure that these kids and their parents do their due diligence to find an agent that's going to do it the right way and honestly not rip them off?
Yeah, I think the more people talk about it, the better. I also think like they're going to say, hey, here's the thing with all those agencies that are doing 20%. They're going to say we work with players at XYZ school. We have X number of dollars we brought in, and this person, that person, and they've got the selling points. So hey, what we do works, right? There's that. The more people talk about it, the better. 20 is gross and disgusting, and they should not do that ever. Like that is just unreasonable. That's what a marketing deal is for most pros. We are 15%, so we're even lower on marketing, like the outside marketing stuff. But so now they've just grandfathered in that 20%. And then they're like, oh, that's what we do. That should have changed 2 years ago at minimum. That's what they were doing 2 years ago, fine. Because we were doing true just marketing deals. And then even on the collective stuff, you're working with the collective to get the marketing deals. Now it's different. It is totally different. And that should be changed and adjusted. Again, like people talking about, I think it's a positive from a union type, regulation type, that obviously would help it. That ain't happening this year. It probably is a long ways away. Seems inevitable though. Like there has to be, the way things are moving, there should be more. There's all these things being negotiated, and never does the player have a seat at the table. Never.
Yeah.
It is all these people saying, oh, we know what's best for these young guys and ladies and other sports. And I go, okay, why can't they have a seat at the table?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question was, you have, the players union in the NFL, the college kids probably need more representation than the NFL guys do. You definitely see that on the horizon then.
I had a team I've been talking to about a player, and they're like, hey, somebody else hit me about him. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because they'll say, hey, I'm working with this guy. Or, hey, have you seen this guy? Or, and there's times where I've seen somebody in the portal and I've gone to a team like, hey, get your eyes on this dude. I don't work with him, but get your eye. Like he's worth getting eyes on. That happens semi-frequently now. But there's people that'll pretend they're repping somebody to then go to, God, I almost said the school name. Pretend they're repping somebody.
It's okay. It's a safe space here.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's a safe space here. You could say the
Yeah. They'll pretend they're repping player X and go to the team, and then they'll be like, hey, his number is this. Can we get him this? And then they'll go back to him and they'll be like, hey, I can get you this if you go here. Let's sign. And then boom, they got him in. So that does happen. Like 1000% that happens. I'll tell you, I told you I don't like when the player comes our way with just a number. I definitely don't like, I've had a couple of teams be like, what's your number? And like, I don't want to start there. I get it. It can be if our guy's getting offers for say $1 million and they're going to pay him 100,000. Like obviously this isn't going to be a fit, right? We can move on quickly, but I'd rather talk ball first. Where do you see him? How does he fit in? What's your plan around him? And then, all right, cool. We're generally in this range. Are you guys in that range or no? Cool. Let's move on or let's keep talking. But sometimes it's like, hey, what's his number? What do you think his number is? Let's start there.
Do you think, sorry, I had another question as you were talking there. Do you think part of the, I guess, issue, and I don't want to call it an issue, but I guess, yeah, the issue that we have with, maybe some of this slimy stuff happening is just, it's so new and there's so many kids and there's people that are seeing something new pop up and taking advantage of it. And hopefully it will fix itself as we learn more and get more familiar with it.
I mean, probably in some ways it will, but just like any industry with money and new money, it's people are all over it. Like that's why there's 700 new companies around NIL over the last 3 years. And they weren't all like, a lot of them are great and beneficial. Some are slimy and not those things. I always question when something has NIL in their thing. I'm like, oh, well, they just jumped on board in this new thing. Like you're an NIL. I never call myself an NIL agent. I just never have done that one single time because I don't consider myself an NIL agent. That's a part of what we do.
Yeah.
But just like I'm an NIL agent, or when somebody says that, well, yeah, I got this NIL agent working with me. I'm like, oh, so that person jumped on board in the last year or two, probably. And now they've got a whole business and shit. It is good money if you're making 20% of even $100,000 deal. Like, bam, $100,000 deal is just a person on the roster at the Power 4 level. That is just a body on the roster typically. Some good players make that money too, but like I'm saying, like everybody's making $100,000. So you'd stack those up, and you can see how they've got a good business financially. But are they doing good business? Are they doing right by the play? I don't give a shit. A lot of these people, and again, there are great agents, obviously, and there are great people doing great things. But there's also a lot that aren't, and most are not.
And then it becomes real easy for them. Say they represent, $100,000 guys. They can say, "Hey, we got $2 million in NIL money just last year," and then I'm 19 years old making 10 grand and a couple sandwiches, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I want that. Take 20%."
There's no doubt, and they're doing everything they can to get as many people as possible and herd them to one school and then herd them to the next and then herd them again. And they just, the money's going up every year. So it just kind of works in that way from a business standpoint. It works.
It's the Wild West. Well, the biggest question of the night is, do you represent any podcasts that are up and coming?
Hey, brother. Yeah. Come on now.
Not yet.
Well, first time for everything.
Maybe.
Not yet.
Get a TV deal for these two fellas right here, pal.
We'll be streaming live on Hulu next episode.
There you go. No, well, Pat, man, we thank you so much. Honestly, we'll probably have to have you on again in the near future, just the more stuff comes out, and hopefully you'll be responsive if I DM you and I say, what the hell is this? Is this shady? Is this the agent's fault or what? Hopefully that way we can not, start rumors.
I can definitely confirm or deny things in the way they needed to be, or at least,
there we go.
If I can talk on some stuff, I'll talk on it. I'm pretty open, as you see. Like I'm pretty open about most things, and happy to confirm slimy stuff.
Sure. Yeah, love it. And we'll, if we link up with any players, if anybody reaches out to us, like, hey, who do you know, man, we'll send them your way so you can at least have a conversation.
Well, Pat, Pat, where can, if we have any, fans or athletes or parents, where can they find you if they just want to get in contact with you and possibly represent their kid?
Just on social, Pat @Pat_Curran Media. I'm sure my name's like right there.
Yep, you hit it. That's perfect.
Yeah. And I'm that on everything on IG, TikTok, Twitter, X. Sorry. I respond to anything that's not ridiculous. So I try to pride myself on that. I have I have 10 guys I'm working with and a couple like upper elites, and I have like 8,000 media members from every team. I'm like, I just cannot, I can't tell you if he's doing this anyway, but like, I can't respond to all of you right now. But outside of that or ridiculousness, I respond to people.
Awesome.
Well, no, we appreciate you. Pat Curran out there in Los Angeles, coming on with a couple of East Coast guys, for right now, but we thank you so much, man. And good luck. Good luck in this new era.
I appreciate it, fellas. Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Of course.
Well, Jeff, we did some talking before and after the recording and just confirmed. That's what we did here today with Pat, is we confirmed what we thought about some of these folks. But great insight, man.
Such good information, a lot of new knowledge we got moving forward, and you know, it gives me a lot of hope in one sense that you got guys like Pat and his company that are really trying to do it the right way, you know, making sure that, you know, it's more of a total package. It's just not a transactional thing. They're advising their, you know, clients and making sure it's the right fit before anything else, right? But then on the other hand, worries me a little bit, or confirms the fact that there are some slime, and he said it. I mean, absolute slimy, disgusting agents that are taking 20% from these kids, getting them to sign 3-year contracts. They don't even know what's in the contract, and they're locked in, and there's really nothing they can do about it. That's wild.
Yeah, it's sad, really, isn't it? But I like, you know, I like his approach, right? Is look, like one of the things he said that caught my attention, a huge red flag if you're looking for agents. Like if their bio says NIL agent, he's like, they just started, is what that means. This is, they saw this, and look, I get it. All business comes from opportunity, right? So, but it should be a red flag for you. And then for him, you know, he's an NFL agent, so he wants to be able to advise you to get you in the best position to get to the NFL, which is what we've been saying for years. That's where your money's at.
Yeah, that's where you're going to make your bag at. So don't, you know, and like he alluded to, you know, if the money is, you know, $5,000 here, $10,000 there, like, go with what's the best fit.
Yeah,
that's not life-changing money to move across the country or move schools where it's a situation you don't know what's going on. You don't know what your role is going to be. Like, it's not guaranteed. Stay somewhere where you know you're comfortable, where the coaches like you, where you're going to get the snaps and the stats and all the things that, shoot, we've been preaching for the last 4 years. So, you know, just really do your due diligence. If you're a player or a parent of a player, you know, look at everything. Don't trust DTA. Don't trust anyone. You know, look at everything like somebody's out to get you, because you're going to weed through more of that stuff and find holes if there is any. And if there's not, then maybe that's the agent you need to go through, or you can just contact us or contact Pat directly. We'll get you in touch with him. I mean, he seems like a straight shooter. I mean, he is who he is, and that's what you want as an agent. Yeah.
And you know, if it seems too good to be true, right, it probably is. And if your agent, if the only thing that if their only selling point is the dollar amount, and you know, you think they look cool because they're flashy or they drive a fancy car or they got jewelry, like, you probably need to raise your antennas on that, is all I'm going to say. Now, I'm not saying you can be, you know, I'm not saying you can't be rich or can't drive a nice car or can't wear jewelry. I'm just saying, let it raise your antennas, right? I mean, Drew Rosenhaus is wearing jeans and a polo shirt.
And
that guy's the best damn agent that's ever done it, isn't he? So, I mean, you know, it's honestly, man, I feel bad for the kids, but also I'm sitting here thinking, like, you can't be that dumb.
Yeah.
That's some of it too. You know what I mean? And then the parents, because the parents are falling for it too. Right. And that, I mean, we talk about that all the time with everything in college football. We always talk about the dad, right, that's doing too much or too involved, and that makes it an issue. It's like, well, you know, sometimes even the parent has some selfish ambition with helping you make your decision. So it's unfortunate, Jeff.
It is. I appreciate Pat coming on and talking shop with us and shedding some light on this crazy space that we're in, because God knows it's the wild, wild west out there.
That's it, man. Well, look, we appreciate Pat, and we appreciate you guys for watching. Appreciate you guys for listening. Make sure you smash the share button, smash the like button. Tell your family and friends all about us. Go on Instagram X, Facebook. Make sure you follow us at Group of Five Guys. Hope you enjoyed it. We're out of here.